Look at some second order boundary value problems. So let's look at the first one. Number 27. So here we have second order differential equation. So we have characteristic equation would be r squared minus 3r plus 2 equal to 0. So you can see that it's going to be r minus 1, r minus 2 equal to 0, where r should be equal to 1 over 2. Then what does that tell us? Our equation should be y equals c sub 1 e to the x plus c sub 2 e to the 2x. That's what we end up getting. Now, once we got to this point, we're going to put the values, boundary values here. When you plug in 0, we should be getting 1. When you plug in 3, we should be getting 0. So when you plug in 1, what do I get? And when you plug in 0, 1 equals, so c sub 1 plus this one becomes c sub 2. That's what we end up getting. Now, how about when you plug in 3, we should get 0. So we get 0 equals plugging in 3. So c sub 1 here, e to the 3 power plus c sub 2 e to the what? 6th power. So now what we can do is we can figure out value of c sub 1 and c sub 2. This is a system of equations. So I can multiply this equation by e sub 3. Then what I end up getting is I get to figure out c sub 2. So here we get e sub 3, e to the 3 power is equal to c sub 1 e to the 3 power plus c sub 2 e to the what? 3 power. And when I subtract this one, then what we end up getting is e to the 3 power, where these two cancels away. And then here we have c sub 2 and e to the what? 3 power minus e to the 6 power. Now to figure out c sub 2, we get e to the 3 power over e to the what? 3 power minus e to the 6 power. I can divide top and bottom by e to the 3 power, then we get 1 over 1 minus e to the 3 power. That's what we end up getting. Now, how would you be able to find c sub 1? I'm gonna use the first equation. So 1 equals c sub 1 plus c sub 2, which is 1 over 1 minus e to the 3 power. Then here we get c sub 1 is equal to 1 minus 1 over 1 minus e to the 3 power. Then I can assume that this is 1 minus e to the 3 power top and bottom. Then what we end up getting is e to the 3 power over 1 minus e to the what? 3 power. That's what I'm getting. So, in fact, it is negative. I forgot the negative sign. So then what we end up getting at the end is y equals negative e to the 3 power over 1 minus e to the 3 power times e to the x. I believe that was e to the x here. Yeah. And then plus c sub 2, which is 1 over 1 minus e to the 3 power times e to the what? 2x. That becomes our final answer, particular solution for this case. Alrighty, let's move on to the next problem, number 29. So here we're going to have characteristic equation becomes now r squared minus 6r plus 25 equal to 0. And I can rewrite this one as r squared minus 6r plus 9 equals negative 16. Because in this way I get to have a perfect square. So we get r minus 3 second power is equal to negative 16. Then r will be 3 plus or minus 4i. What does that mean? It means y equals e to the 3 power, which is the real part right over here, times c sub 1 cosine of 4x because of the 4 coefficient of I, plus c sub 2 sine of 4x. Now when I plug in 0, I should be able to get 1. So 1 here is equal to e to the 3 power. Oops, I forgot the x. So when I plug in 0, 1 equals, this one becomes 1, and this one becomes 1 as well, so we have c sub 1, and this one becomes 0. So simply c sub 1 equals 1. But when I plug in pi, what do I get? 2 equals e to the 3 pi, and then cosine of 4 pi is equal to 1 again, so we have c sub 1. And sine of 4 pi is equal to 0, so that's what we end up getting. But this one tells me that c sub 1 should be equal to 2 over e to the 3 pi. But wait a minute, can c sub 1 be two different numbers? That's not possible. So we have no solution here. All right, let's look at the next question. Number 31. So here I get r squared plus 4r plus 13 is equal to the characteristic equation. And you can see that this one is 144. So r plus 2 squared equals negative 9. That's what we can write. Now, then here we get r should be equal to negative 2 plus or minus 3i. Then it tells me that my equation should be y equals e to the negative 2x. And then c sub 1 cosine of 3x plus c sub 2 sine of 3x. That's what we end up getting so far. So now when I plug in 0, I should be getting 2. Then what do we end up getting? I'm going to plug in 0. So this one becomes, so 2 equals, that's 1. So cosine of 0 still equals 1, so we have c sub 1 left. Sine of 0 is 0, so we realize that c sub 1 is equal to 2. Then let's look at pi over 2, so we get, so knowing that c sub 1 is equal to 2, I know that this value is equal to 2. When you plug in pi over 2, and then 1 equals e to the negative pi. That's what we end up getting, because pi over 2 times negative 2 becomes negative pi. And then we get cosine of 3 pi over 2. That becomes 0. While sine of 3 pi over 2 is negative 1, so we have negative c sub 2. So we get c sub 2 becomes negative 1 over e to the negative pi. In other words, simply negative e to the pi. That's what we end up getting. So then our final answer becomes y equals e to the negative 2x times 2 cosine of 3x minus e to the pi sine of 3x. That becomes our final answer. All right, with that one, I'm going to close up. I'll see you later.